here at Lake Washington Institute of Technology. It's a really beautiful campus and school. Has been really kind to me, and over the last few years allowed their students and myself to have access to the motion capture equipment that I invested in many years ago. They've been hosting the equipment, keeping it up and running, and I'm here to finally take it down. And this chapter is officially coming to a close for me, and unfortunately not under the terms that I would have liked. It's kind of a sad turn of events. I would like to profoundly, however, thank Lake Washington Institute of Technology and DigiPen for both putting in the effort to try to keep this system up and running and going, and allowing students and others to get use out of it. It was the biggest investment I had ever made in my life, and it's kind of sad what happened. And I think what I'll do is I'll record the footage of me taking it down and maybe narrate over top what happened. I'm a little early for my appointment here to dismantle it, so I'm just out here feeling blessed that it's a beautiful day and that I get to enjoy a little bit of sunshine before heading in and closing off this chapter. So thanks for watching. Thank you to all of you who supported this venture over the years. And I guess we'll see what's up ahead, right? All we can do is look forward. Looking back only uses the past as an anchor that we drag behind us, and the best thing is to look forward and grow wiser, not forget the lessons, so that we can tread more carefully and pay attention to where we're stepping as we move forward. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye. Well, this marks the conclusion of a journey that began in 2008 when I flew to New York, met with a company called Organic Motion, fell in love with a piece of technology, and purchased it for over $30,000. And it was a great group of people. Really enjoyed working with them. They did a lot for us. They actually gave me quite a big discount on the equipment. I think this particular version of the equipment was over $40,000, and we worked out a deal where they'd get to use it for promotional purposes. So they flew out to Redmond and brought their marketing team and a number of news outlets to do stories on the equipment, which also was great for Digital Double as well, because it gave us a lot of press at the same time. And it was just a really great experience. There was a sense of life and excitement during that time. I remember just being really thrilled about being able to bring something new into town, and so were people. I mean, we attracted hundreds of visitors that came every week. We had open houses. Students, teachers, professionals came and captured moves for free, and even did summer workshops for teens, where over the course of a week, kids that were as young as 14, 15 would come and do motion capture and learn about 3D animation. It was a really magical time, and so having the equipment really helped bring a lot of life to my life, and I hope to those who got to use it and experience the magic of markerless motion capture. Unless you get in there and do it, it's hard to know and experience, to know what that is like. This was 2008. It was right when that economic crisis hit, so the timing was pretty bad on my part, but also kind of good because people were looking for innovation. During times of economic crisis, people are looking for ways in which to cut costs, to speed up production, and so there was a lot of curiosity surrounding the system, and so there were a lot of business people who came by to look it over. But mostly, I think because they were trying to invest in either the same system or a similar system to have in-house. And so there was very little outsourcing that actually took place. It's what I originally invested in it for, was to provide motion capture services to the surrounding game companies in the area. But it ended up just being something that we used ourselves and offered it as a service directly to people in the community. And so a lot of small businesses made use of it. So it was a lot of fun. It innovated in a number of ways. Number one, it was markerless, but also it was real time. And so you could step into the system, get acquired by standing in a T-pose, and you could see on a monitor your character performing the moves that you were doing in the moment. And that was quite thrilling for people. It still was for me, over 10 years later, to get into the system and play with it. And I was really excited this month because we were going to move it to DigiPen, Institute of Technology. And it had been at Lake Washington Institute of Technology for the past few years. Had remained completely dormant for about a year because of the pandemic. And so once things settled down and I was able to go back into campus, I tried to get the system up and running, and it wouldn't work. There was a big banner on top of the calibration program that said, "License expired." And this completely caught me. I was completely blindsided by this, because there was no indication at all when I invested in the equipment that there was any sort of time limit on it. I was expecting that once I bought it, I owned it and I'd be able to use it for as long as I was able to keep it running. We did run into a pretty serious hard drive corruption issue that I was afraid was going to be the death of the system, but thankfully some of the IT people at DigiPen were able to repair it and bring it back to life. And so we got, I think, another year or two of use out of it after that point. But this licensing thing was really surprising, and so I tried to get in touch with people who worked at the company, because the company is no longer around. They went under. And I was assured that the licensing was supposed to be perpetual. But once I got a hold of the CEO, he told me that they had been using some third-party technology that they hadn't full control over. And it was they who had the licensing limitations placed on the hardware. Some sort of timer that basically forced it to expire. And this, of course, was just such a sad turn of events, such a tragedy. To see this major investment just all of a sudden, because of some timer, be rendered completely unusable and obsolete, even though there was just so much more use we could have gotten out of it. So a couple days ago, I went to Lake Washington, and as you can see here, dismantled it. Spent about 5 hours taking it down. I've boxed everything up and stashed it away. And one of the things I hate, perhaps more than a bad investment, is waste. It's one of my principles. Ask anybody that knows me, and you'll know that I don't putting more stuff out into the dump. So I'm boxing all this stuff, stashing it away. I think maybe I will list each of these items online on the website. I would appreciate it if people spread the word. Once I have the little storefront set up with all these items available, I'll put the link in this video. So if people are looking for firewire cables or some of those aluminum beams or any of the hardware that I'm going to be listing, I would love to be able to sell it or to have someone take it who can actually make use of it. The reflective fabric is really interesting. It's about $2,000 worth in fabric, which of course I'll be reducing significantly. It's a retro-reflective fabric that reflects light directly back at the light source. It's comprised of these microscopic glass beads. So we could have a number of interesting uses, either for optics or for fashion or even for anything that would reflect light brightly on the road, for example. I'm not exactly sure what other uses there are for something like that. I'm sure photography, there might be some uses for something like this. But I'll be putting that online as well, seeing if anyone's interested. All in all, I added up all the hardware itself, and it doesn't amount to more than $3,000 worth of equipment. So definitely won't be recouping the investment of $30,000, but at the very least, things won't be going to waste and out into the dump, something I really want to avoid. So that was it. This is the end of this chapter. It's the end of doing motion capture. It's not the end of Digital Double, so the company is alive and well, and I will continue to do some of the other things that the company does, from 2D to 3D graphics. And I actually have a really extensive library now of motion capture animation that was captured over the years that I'm hoping to someday clean up and sell as individual clips. And so not all is lost in the end. There are some things that I can still use, but it is sad nonetheless to see this chapter come to an end, and really appreciate everybody who supported it over the years. Well, here we are. It's 2:30. When I got here, it was a 9:50, and it's done. Finished unloading everything. Got my SUV packed to the brim. Farewell, farewell, Lake Washington, and farewell motion capture. It's a sad day. The sun has managed to stay out, although it's starting to get a little stormy. As soon as I put the last thing into the back, there was a strong, really powerful gust of wind that blew one of my boxes away. Felt like closure. I guess now off to store this in my garage and wonder what I'm going to do with the equipment. I think I'm going to try to sell it for parts, sell the cameras, and maybe use the structure for something. I'll definitely follow up and let you guys know what I end up doing with it, but it's definitely not going to be used for motion capture anymore. So that marks the end of this particular chapter for Digital Double. Thank you again to everybody who supported and came and enjoyed the system. Students, professionals, teachers, businessmen and women. Thank you all. Really it's meant a lot to me. I think something I've been learning lately. A lot of things, really. We get caught up in our own fantasies, you know. We want to see things the way we want them to be more than the way they really are. And you can keep that up. You can keep that pretense up for a while. You can keep pushing something, firmly believing in it. But if you're not acknowledging the reality of the situation, you're just you're being willfully delusional, and eventually you will crash into something. You know, you will. Life will teach you that you're living in a fantasy, and it'll. For some people, that experience can be deadly. If you're fortunate, like me, you have some other things to fall back on. Because I think I've been living my life, fortunately, only partially delusional, not fully. So, kind of lucked out a little bit. But it's important to be real, to be realistic about things, not carry on in the fantasy. And when life teaches you that, hey, this is wrong, this is not going to work, rather than doubling down because you're so stubborn and full of pride that you want to do anything that it takes to never admit that you were wrong. I think all that remains over time are all the right decisions. You know, the saying, we stand on the shoulder of giants, is really true. We take for granted that everything that we stand upon today is only there because of right decisions. And those comprise a very, very small percentage of the decisions that were made. Maybe we make 98% wrong decisions, and because they're wrong, they collapse, they erode, they disintegrate, they evaporate into the ether of history. But that 2% where we got things right, that's what's left for the next generation to build upon. And upon thousands and thousands of years, we've built what we have today. And I think we should be really grateful for that. We should be really grateful for what every single ancestor has left us. Regardless of how right or wrong they were in their decisions, by the mere fact that only 2% of what they did was right, we should be grateful. And not only for the winners, but also for the losers. Not only for the friends, but also for the enemies. Because the enemies made us stronger. And so everybody plays a part in where we are today. No matter your race, no matter your nationality, no matter your religion, or whatever tribe you belong to, or look back upon for inspiration, everybody plays a role in where we are today. And for that, I am eternally grateful. And I will learn from my own failures, and I will try not to make the same mistakes. I will definitely try not to be wasteful, and take what's left of these remains and maybe do something more fruitful with them. Wouldn't that be nice? Use it to fertilize a new soil from which maybe something new can be born from. That's, I think, what I'm taking away from all of this, and I thought I'd share that experience with you all, since so many of you have been part of this journey throughout the years. And I just want to say thank you again. Stay tuned, because you never know what's coming next. Bye, everyone.